It was a scenic summer's day at Wimbledon, befitting the genteel repose of the prestigious lawn tennis championship, when everything transmogrified into a toxic conflagration scorching the entire United Kingdom's collective composure. What began as an innocuous capturing of tender father-daughter intimacy between David Beckham and his offspring quickly metastasized into a grotesque cultural grenade lobbed by the erstwhile Duchess of Sussex, detonating any hopes for the renegade royal stateside brand rehabilitation. As the tiny sprite cradled against her famous father's chest in the shaded VIP players' box, whispering intimacies back and forth while still tracking the on-court rallies clearly illustrated. Here was golden familial candor embodied in a million adoring snaps, one generation passing down timeless passions to the next, entirely suffused in the protective embrace of unbreakable paternal devotion. That should have been the immutable takeaway immortalized for posterity's archives. One of the United Kingdom's most iconic sons bonding in tranquil domesticity through shared enthusiasms for sport's humanistic virtues. Instead, the tender snapshots from SW19 morphed into lurid confirmation of Meghan Markle's reputed obsession with projecting the most horrendous calumnies towards anything upholding traditional family values. Or, in the Duchess's own repugnantly salacious framings, apparent evidence of David Beckham committing flagrant, emotional incestuous indecencies against his child through unambiguous, access-violating, bodily entwinings. It didn't take long for Markle's grotesque hypothesizings to disseminate with predictably pestilential virality throughout the most depraved sectors of the anti-patriarchal blogosphere. Within the span of a few hours, fevered rantings from the most atavistically embittered radical feminist sociopaths likened the touching split second of caregiver-to-child affection to nothing less than an irrefutable signifier of irredeemable male depravity requiring sweeping preventative family court interventions. So we're just supposed to look past the constant stream of celebrity daddies lewdly pawing at their little girls' developing bodies for their own perverted gratification because, what, the pigs did it openly in a public space thinking that provided them with some imperious latitude? One unhinged Markle stan demanded among a torrent of venom flooding YouTube and Instagram threads. If one more handmaiden of the kitty-diddling patriarchy dares attempt normalizing this incest-coded breach within the hallowed sanctum of the father-daughter pseudo-bond, there's going to be an all-out thermonuclear war declared against the #MeToo seed peddlers still lurking in the manosphere. With the backlash crescendoing against a backdrop of unprecedented social media toxicity, it wasn't long before Meghan herself issued a sententious denunciation apparently casting the Beckham paterfamilias as an arch-villain of pedophile grooming culture straight out of a Lifetime cable docudrama's fevered Imagineering. Through her now notorious personal ombudsman Omid Scobie, the Duchess let leak a characteristically caustic round of incendiary emasculations positing her former friend-turned-adversary as the poster caryatid for ritualized cycles of sexual child exploitation hiding in plain sight. She's obviously completely disgusted at how the veneer of aristocratic gentility conditioning is used to such subversively compartmentalize issues of parental cosmeticized abuse, Scobie declared to a rapt scrum of reporters positively rabid for new ammunition against the Beckhams. The mere fact that this sort of regressive indecent indoctrination still happens so cavalierly and camera-enabled out in the open is essentially David Beckham normalizing his daughter's grooming into a life of getting inured from an early age towards intimate male boundary violations. As far as Meghan is concerned, she's peering into the abyss of how little girls ultimately remain commodified and aggressively shamed out of ever-forming self-protective aversions to patriarchal ownership. With such corrosive framings being pumped directly into the global media stream from someone widely viewed as an impeccable moral authority on women's issues, it didn't take long for the controversy to reach outright hysterical intensity. Social media armies aligned with Markle swiftly mobilized to launch withering bombardments against the Beckham personal brand and its various commercial sponsorship equities, vowing sustained advertiser boycotts if their corporate idols failed to immediately repudiate their presumed deviancy enabler. Meanwhile, on the nation's preeminent television and radio shout shows, horse-throated rants from livid cultural gatekeepers tore into the fallen soccer deity as the grotesque personification of every unfashionable Anglo-masculine grotesquerie requiring cancellation. Up from the gutters bubbled even more unrestrained streams of consciousness shrieking semi-literate condemnations of David Beckham as a rank manifestation of pedophilia rapaciously awaiting normalization by the very society daring to defend his reputation. Bruv went directly from his colonizer daddy Grassie's onto Oglesvilling his own baby mashes with that tossed leer, probably scoping their posty-womb fruit assets same way he used to undress his mother with his eyes if you asked anyone on road. One viral flame war contestant on some encrypted Web3 hell site decreed in barely intelligible street patter. But all these Bicky Butters and Miggy mates want to cape for dips like that, probably looking to get their own little blue pieces of lolly primed. We see them 100 pour, and that's why Tinger. With the online conflagration reaching full metastasis at a breakneck pace, what resulted was a prime crucible where nearly every problematic societal prejudice and regressive belief system found its earthen avatar synthesized into the composite enemy figure that was Brand Beckham. Once standing astride both pop cultural and mercantile worlds as the consummate 21st century imperial archon of aspirational masculinity, the fallen former footballer now pivoted to resolutely defending his personal honor against the most unforgivably despicable characterizations. In him was encapsulated all the rhetorical redoubts society's enemies were now mobilizing to dismantle through total conquest, leaving David Beckham on the front line of a civilizational fratricide. To his infinite credit, the man once deified as Britain's premier embodiment of sporting virility refused to cower in shame. Instead, Beckham elected to confront the slanders head-on through a sustained media campaign that didn't pull any punches in dismantling Meghan Markle's atrocious calumnies down to their most ethically and morally repugnant foundations. No apology tours or furrowed brows equivocating over accusations of pedophilic improprieties against his own child, only a righteous barrage aimed squarely at the unmitigated hypocrisy fueling these despicable framings. Only the most depraved minds could look upon such cherished displays of parental adoration and pervert it into the most rancid sexual pathologies against an innocent child, Beckham thundered in a primetime interview watched by millions of Britons. But that's the entire problem with this sickness infecting our civilization like a kudzu vine gone malignant, innit? Which is why I refuse to observe even a smidgen of legitimacy towards anyone warping a father's endearment towards his own flesh and blood into hints of predatory deviance as some bizarre ideological tactic. From there, the once iconic footballer proceeded to systematically unravel and dismantle the underlying pernicious frameworks used to promote such grotesque suspicions, particularly when it came to the broader agenda behind Meghan Markle weaponizing her association with the Beckham family as a human shield for laundering reputational violence. You see the trick they're playing here? Dress up their poisonous insinuations in the most high-minded auspices of safeguarding girlhood from non-existent threats, when in reality it represents nothing less than an open declaration of war on traditional family formation, full stop. Wake up, folks, nothing is sacred once a movement this malicious stakes their moral pretenses on annihilating all affirming paternal-filial intimacies by sexualizing them into inherent abuse cycles. With that stinging rejoinder now openly framed as a zero-sum civilizational